Hey there, everybody. Pete from the Gen Well Project here for another connected conversation. Really looking forward to the conversation today with Michelle Pereira from the Habitat for Humanity office in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And really excited about this conversation to connect the dots between how Habitat uses human connection as a big part of what they do to help make the world a happier and healthier place. Before I bring Michelle on, I just want to do a little overview of why we're here. The Gen Well Project's a human connection movement that was launched in 2016 in order to educate people on the importance of human connection in their lives, and most importantly, inspire us all to take action. We're obviously in the middle of a pandemic. We're more aware of the importance of human connection than ever before. And we're just happy to be here to share the message and the importance and the facts and figures that remind us all to make it a key part of staying happy and healthy as we go through the pandemic. Connected Conversation is a series of conversations that we launched at the start of the pandemic to keep people connected to the ideas, the tools, and the people that are doing amazing things, helping people get connected through this journey and making sure we get through it in the healthiest and happiest way possible. So let me bring on Michelle now, and let's start a conversation about the importance of human connection and all the incredible work that we do at Habitat for Humanity. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning. So nice to see your face.
You too, and I guess it's actually beyond the morning, so I'll say good afternoon. But you know, it's great to see you nonetheless. Thank you so much for being here. It is amazing to see how society is coming together, and I think organizations like Habitat for Humanity are more important than ever before in the work that you do, and also in the understanding of the role that human connection can play in what we do. So, but before we get started, Michelle, the first thing we like to ask everybody when we come on Connected Conversations, you know, you're the VP of Marketing and Communications at Habitat for Humanity Manitoba. But before we get into the business side of things, how are you doing in COVID-19? Because we all need to look at the leaders that are out there trying to make the world a better place and make sure that we're checking in on them as well.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So, you know, I'm doing well. I have everybody in my family is safe. I have a job. I have, you know, my bills are paid, you know, things like that, or I have food on my table, a roof over my head. And it's good. I have a very lovely golden retriever, Finn, who is my companion, and he is a wonderful thing. So I think pets have really helped us live throughout the COVID thing, and we see a lot of puppies at the dog park. So yeah, life is good for me. So pretty grateful.
I think that's that's really important, that I think we recognize how fortunate we are for those who have the fundamental needs of food, water, shelter, safety, and security, but that we can also see some of the beautiful things that have been given to us in this pause and reset, like time to spend with family, like time to spend with the animals in our lives, and certainly, you know, animals, dogs. You know, for me, dogs are, you know, they say man's best friend. So the opportunity to get connected through dogs and with our dogs and the people around us is pretty special. So, Michelle, we all have heard about Habitat for Humanity, but I think I'd love it if you'd give us a couple minutes on just a little more of the history behind Habitat for Humanity and all the incredible work that you do in Manitoba, but also just across the country, because I think a refresher for people, because you've been around, I want to say since 75, but I may be off on that. When President Jimmy Carter, I think, was one of the original founders of the idea. But maybe you can tell us a little more, maybe the history in Canada, but maybe touch on a little bit of the global history as well.
Sure. So it is a global organization. It actually started in 1973, so we're very close, in Americus, Georgia, on a farm. Miller and Linda Fuller ended up founding it, and it was really about partnership housing is how it launched. In 1985, I believe, it's the first Habitat house was actually built in Canada, in Winkler, Manitoba, not far from Winnipeg. And right now there are 52 affiliates in the country serving approximately 250 to 300 homes a year, new families a year. But, you know, it's really about a partnership with a family who otherwise wouldn't qualify for traditional mortgage. And so Habitat's role is to help them have an affordable mortgage through a hand up type of situation. So that's how it happens. But since Habitat launched in Canada in 1985, there's almost 4,000 families that have purchased their Habitat home through this program. So it's a really, really interesting thing. But what the biggest misconception is that Jimmy Carter actually started it. He didn't. When he was finishing his last term, he actually, Miller says, you need to do this with me. And that's kind of how it started. And so it was not his plan to be a part of Habitat. And so him and Mrs. Carter dedicate 1 week a year to Habitat. Wow. And then they build 1 year in the US, one time in the international countries. So the last time they were here was in 2017 for Canada's 150th. Winnipeg was one of the places that they visited, and Edmonton was the other. And the concept was to build 150 homes for Canada's 150th. And we exceeded that by a bunch, like nice. Doubled it. But basically, he has really lifted the brand for sure. You'll see memes out there where he's building and he's 90, I think he's 96 or 97 years old now.
I think he was building 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he's an inspirational man. Not everybody agreed with what he did.
All right, we've got a little tech. Oh, here we're coming back.
I mean, he's done great things.
There we are. We got you back. You're all good now. Oh, we did. We had a chat before the conversation that Michelle was on Wi-Fi in her office, so there may be a little bit of a delay here, but we'll get her back. Here it comes. So yes, he didn't start it, but he certainly is a great role model and a great face of the campaign. And the fact that I think I did see a post literally 2 weeks ago of him on a job site, it really is inspiring. And we all need, whatever the cause is, the opportunity to have people like that, ambassadors like that, becomes really powerful. So let's get into Manitoba. Let's get into Habitat Manitoba. And let's talk about COVID and really what's the impact of a pandemic on an organization like Habitat for Humanity in Manitoba? What's it done and how have you guys responded to it?
Well, March, I believe March 20th is the date. Which is, we have 40 closed retail stores, which is really how we administration costs. Oh, there, I'm back again. Home, so that was good, but donations stopped, right? And so we had to manage that. There's the shutdown portion of it, so we had a lot more meetings than we've ever had. We learned Zoom very fast, but you basically had to put some plans in place because we really didn't know how long this was going to happen. Luckily, we survived. We didn't have to really lay anybody off. Everybody was able to be paid through the whole process. Our board was very supportive of that. And, because human equity is a big part of the success of our organization and the team. And so if you lose the people we have an excellent team that works in Manitoba. So if we lose that, you have to start over, you really are actually putting yourself as a disadvantage. So we made a conscious decision as a leadership team to ask the board for permission to continue paying people, whether they worked 40 hours a week or not, right? And just trust that when we do come back, they're going to remember that and everything. So it worked out really well. So we were able to still build 18 homes or start 18 homes in the province, which is less than we had planned. We planned on 24 to 25, but still serving a lot of families, which was really important to us at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think, you end off there talking about serving the families. It's amazing to see how you guys were able to, and I apologize for using the word pivot, but you were able to pivot and see how you could do what you do in a new way. But maybe you can give us a little insight to the families that you serve, and what's COVID-19? What's the impact it's had on them?
It's interesting because we have two groups of families. We have families that are currently in their homes and holding a mortgage with us, and the families that are actually coming into partnership. So they've signed their agreements. And so right now we have just over 30 families that are not in a Habitat house, but going through the process of becoming owning their own home. And so it's different for them because they might have lost their job, they might have been on CERB. it really impacted their ability to do their sweat equity hours, which is a big part of their commitment to us, because they have to have so many hours completed before we would even consider them and offer them an address. And so that was a difficult part for them. Some people had to stay home with kids, and they've all got children. Some people lost jobs, but interesting enough, a lot of our Habitat families are in healthcare, and so there was a lot of job security there in healthcare aides and those types of cleaning services. We have a lot of families that work for cleaning services, and so it's an interesting thing. So we did have some job loss. The families that have a mortgage with us now, so we have just under 300 mortgages that we currently hold. We had about 20%.
All right, I think we've got a little
of
delay.
Those families
there we go.
Sorry.
Lost you at we've got 20%, you were saying? Sorry, I lost you.
So about 20% of our families that called and inquired, and now how many of those actually needed support, we're not sure. But some of it's just adjusting their mortgage until they can get back on their feet. So we work with families in partnership to try and come up with a solution. But I think it's a pretty small number, considering we usually have about a 98% success rate on families paying their mortgages, which I think most banks would love. So
yeah, I think it's amazing that you guys have been able to adapt and make sure that you were able to help people out in these challenging times. No different than banks have been coming up, and certainly government support programs and different things. So it's amazing that you've been able to adjust and support the people in your community. So we've got the business, we've got the people that you serve, and I think there's another really important part of what Habitat does. And all of these things are related to connection and human connection. We'll get to that momentarily, but it's about the volunteers. Maybe you can tell me, how were the volunteers impacted, and maybe what impact do you think COVID-19 might have on the volunteers who are stepping up each and every day to help Habitat build their homes?
Yeah, so we have two types of volunteers. We have volunteers that come out as a general volunteer. That's how we identify them, where they're typically retired. They might be a student. We had a student come out this year who was is becoming a mechanical engineer, did not get a placement because of COVID. So he said, hey, I'm just going to go learn how to build a house, and that might help me with my career. And so he actually was able to network with some people in his field on our build site that were out building. And so it was actually an interesting dynamic where he never thought that was going to be possible. So and then we have volunteers where a company will pay make a donation to Habitat, and they'll come out as a group. It's team building, build day kind of an opportunity. And so we really had to make sure that we had safety measures in place, and we were able to convince them. And what was wonderful was that these volunteers actually said, this might be the only thing that we're allowed to do this year because it's outside. So we did have a pretty good number of groups that were able to come out. But what's interesting is seeing a volunteer come to the build site and interact with a family, because these are selfless people. These are people that are retired professionals who had lovely careers, or they're currently working in a very high level position, swinging in a hammer. And what happens is that the family just can't believe that a stranger is helping them build their home and their future for their children. And the volunteer actually can't believe how much it fills their heart and their soul by helping someone that they don't even know. And so it's an interesting dynamic when you see that on the build site. And I feel like Habitat, sure, we help families own a home and have a stable, energy efficient home and all those things. But the power of the connection between the volunteers, the sponsors, the families is something that you really have to feel and experience. And I mean, there are any given day I'm on the build site and we're sobbing because we're telling stories about something that it's like, like mascara is not an ideal thing for me on a build site. So, and like I was talking to you earlier about this, like I get so much more out of it than I give to. Like I just can't believe how good I feel. Like Habitat's really changed my life in terms of how I am and how I am. So, these people I would probably never met. So it's fun. And we work with a lot of youth too, youth programs. So youth at risk programs. So there's an organization in Winnipeg called RAY, or Resource Assistance for Youth. And this is kind of the last stop for these young adults. Like they've had a difficult life. Things are not good in their life. And so we actually have them come out and and we teach them a trade. And so we were able to get a grant to hire two kids full time that are working, and life is hard for them. Like they are typically, these two people happen to be Indigenous, and they're learning a skill. They're hard workers. Sometimes there are days when things aren't going well. So you actually become a bit of a mentor for them too. And then they get to interact with our volunteers that are out, and they get to teach them how to be a good human being, how to be responsible, how to show up. So there's so many layers of what Habitat does, and that human connection thing, which is so in line with what GenWell is all about.
Yeah, honestly, as I listen to you talk about everything that
don't you just want to come here and build with us?
I do. Well, hey, I've been on a few build sites, and I look at every opportunity. And even last year, was talking to some friends saying, "Hey, we need to do something," because I think. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier, which is I think too many times people think of writing a check or making a donation as the I've done my job, I'm moving on. But I think your comment, and certainly organizations like Habitat and GenWell depend on getting donations. But I also believe that when people really want to see the true value of giving, when they pick up that hammer, to your point, and when they have that opportunity to be a part of helping somebody else, to see that piece of siding go on, to see that window go in, to see that trim go on a door, you really start to, and something that you talked about and I've seen is when you see the homeowner and the smile on their face because they're working there right beside you. I don't know, Michelle, if there is anything better.
Yeah, it's very rewarding, I guess, is the best and meaningful. Like I feel like when I work with young people, you get asked to go and speak in front of a group of students or whatever. And I said, my best advice for you is to find meaningful work or find something that provides meaning. So maybe your job isn't that. Like if you're a computer tech person, that's going to be tough to find meaning in that. But go do something that's going to fulfill your soul and is going to give you some purpose, And so whatever that looks like. And I didn't grow up in a home where we volunteered. Like we volunteered at, what our school things and stuff like that. But like this is very selfless volunteering and giving and get out of your comfort zone, and do something very different.
I really do think that, I think COVID-19 may have a bigger impact on us than anybody could have ever imagined, which is the recognition. And I was telling you a story before we came on, is my dentist who had a purpose his whole life of helping people, fixing their teeth, making their smiles brighter and whiter. And in one day, he turned from being a dentist who every day went to the office to do that to being told he couldn't do that anymore. And he actually grappled with the idea of how do I find my purpose? And I think a lot of people have probably come to a recognition of maybe something that they thought was their meaning and their purpose in life. Maybe it isn't actually the thing that was their meaning and purpose. And I think this is an opportunity for all organizations like Habitat who are out there hands-on helping people, helping other people be better off. But also, to your point, the greater value is actually in the work you do and the feeling that you get as a volunteer. So I think, we may see on the other side of this more people than ever lining up to do Habitat builds. And wouldn't that be a beautiful thing?
Yeah, and I think because of COVID, affordable housing is going to be at an all-time high. And it's interesting because not every family is meant to own a home. And so it's a very intrusive process to become a partner family. And so I think that is refreshing to know that, we've done our due diligence to make sure that they're going to succeed and that they're going to do well. We have a family, her name's Ashley. She's a single mom of 5 children, has been in her house for 2 years, studying to get her CPA, works in the finance industry. I remember a very hot Winnipeg summer day where she sat in my car. I was going to give her a ride home because she didn't have a car. And it was like 40 degrees outside. And she started crying. And I was like, what's going on? She goes, I'm not going to get my hours done. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because they have to do 500 hours prior to moving in. And she goes, I've done the calculations, Michelle. I don't have enough days left. So, so it was an interesting thing. So she really had thought about it, and it was the weight of her shoulders. So I went, and there is an opportunity for volunteers to donate some of their hours to a family in need. And so we don't advertise that part, but we went, and she happened to be the Women Build partner family that year. And so we went to the Women Build volunteers and they all donated her. So within 24 hours, she was done. And it was almost like this weight just lifted off of her shoulder, and she just had this refreshing on life. And now, 2 years later, every year she comes out and helps build a Habitat house. Every year. She doesn't stop because she's in a house and she's, making mortgage payments. She is out and she's just, you can tell, like, she's so excited to be there helping future families, have the pride that she has.
It's interesting. I think, over the last few decades, we've built a world in which we've put up more walls physically and emotionally around each other in this dog eat dog world. And I think it's stories like that when we actually become more empathetic and compassionate for one another, and when we experience the kindness and the generosity at a build site for Habitat, that I think it actually awakens us and inspires us to actually think beyond our own four walls, beyond our own head, and to actually think about, hey, that felt really good to have somebody do something for me. Geez, I wonder how great it would feel to help somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember the day I got her in my car and I told her, and it was like, we were both like ugly crying at this moment, right? And, I was a one-parent home. And so I know what it feels like to feel the pressure of raising children and working and trying to just have a life better. I know what that feels like. And so I think that's probably why I was drawn to her a little bit more. But she appreciated it, which is pretty powerful. And she understood what the gift meant. And then now she continues. And trust me, she has her plate very full. And we have lots of those kind of stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing. And I'm going to do something. This is off the script, off of what I intended on. But I want to talk about partners, because I think, the role that Habitat plays for partners and businesses that get involved with a build. We can always think of the company, and I'm happy to have you name them, the company that donates the wood and the hammers and the nails and the building supplies. That's incredible. But I think, again, and I used to work at a beverage alcohol company, and we went on a build together. And I think we had a beverage at the end of our build, which was a wonderful thing. But my point being is the value that you bring to your partners, again, in building their community and in understanding the value of purpose and helping other people and building broader community. Talk to me a little bit maybe about who's involved in the work you do, but also just the role that you think you play in bringing value back to your partners.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I would say about 75% of our donor base is the corporate community, the business community, and I think it's because we have an interesting business model where the donation continues to get reinvested back into a house. We have an opportunity for employee engagement, so you can come out and swing a hammer. You can come do different things. So there's a program to empower women to become leaders, and so I think that's it. So I can think of one example. So Canada Life sponsors an entire Habitat house with us every second year, and they actually have to do a lottery because there are so many people that have come out to build or have heard about how much fun it is. So they give their employees a paid day off, and they get to come. And so the response is so high that they can't just let people sign up, because otherwise it'd be the same people all the time. Wawanesa Insurance is another really good example. They need to really be thoughtful and purposeful in who gets to actually come out and build, which is kind of fun. And then what you see is they actually come out after, and they on their own and just take a vacation day. We have and come out and build. So our Women Build chair leader is Joanne Machado. She's been a volunteer of ours for years. She takes 2 weeks of her own vacation to lead the construction of the Habitat build site. Grace Karpinski is another person. She is an executive assistant at Qualico, which is the largest home builder in Western Canada. Wow. They're involved with us on many layers, but they take a personal vacation. Like, they spend 2 weeks with us and on their own time to come out and build a house. And these are women that did not know anything about construction when they started with us, and now they're reading the plans and leading other women and teaching them how to build a house. So there's lots of those types of examples of how it is. But I think that what we hear is the feedback that they get. It's just like nothing, no other volunteer opportunity is given them this. Our construction team, our volunteer team, our food services team, they do an exceptional job of making sure that when they get to the build site, so we have a team of fund development people, fundraisers that sell the day or get them to come out. But the real part of it is the boots on the ground. It's making sure that our red seal carpenters, because you can be a red seal carpenter and be a horrible people person, right? So being a construction person at Habitat is just so different than a traditional home builder, because you have to be patient. You're talking to people like me that don't know how to, you put a hammer and a nail together and make it work, right? And it's okay if it doesn't work. And so that whole experience of coming out and being patient and grateful is important too. And so, we have like what we like to say is a well-oiled machine in Manitoba, and everybody knows that their role is to be grateful to the people who are spending time with us. And it is drilled in. Everybody gets it. Your first day here, you spend time with the CEO, and that is very important. So volunteer experience is important. Kelly Kluger is our manager of volunteer services. She is by far one of the top people here. She knows every volunteer's name. And we have thousands of volunteers that come out, and she knows all of them by her first name. That is a skill that is not for everybody, right? So there's lots of that.
I really hope some of these shout outs, I hope there are a couple of people who are either watching or tune into this video after the fact, because I think it's just so beautiful that you're calling it out. And I think, what I take from what you're saying, and something that I believe in as the founder of the GenWell project, is I think businesses have a really important role right now. And that is actually helping employees connect to things like purpose. Because as you say, you may not have grown up in a household where this was a natural thing to do. And I actually think even back then, there might have been some donations. There might have been, when your clothes got too small, it was donating it to the local clothing, organization. Yeah, we've all been a part of things like that, but I think this is about taking it to the next level and understanding that by sending your employees off to work at a Habitat site, not only are you teaching them purpose, especially young people who may not have been connected to this before, but you take out a team of 10 people, 12 people, whatever you might in an office or an organization, connect those young people to a higher purpose, connect them as team members, connect them to the community. When you think about what most businesses are looking for in their employees, they want to bring the biggest, the smartest, the brightest people possible to their business, and you want to keep them that way. And I think by helping them connect to things like a Habitat build is a great way for businesses to really understand the role that they can play in not just paying somebody for their time as an exchange of value. You do this job, I give you this money, but really building greater people, because those greater people end up being the people who create the culture and create the success of the business and become, frankly, your ambassadors when they're on a build site, when they're out in the community, because they say, oh my God, my boss, my business did this for me and gave me an experience that I would have never thought of doing on my own, but thank you for introducing it to me. So I think the stories that you tell is really powerful.
Yeah, and there's two things that are interesting. So employee retention actually improves when they work for a company who's philanthropic. And when they visually, a lot of their staff don't actually, the company might be super philanthropic, giving away millions of dollars every year. But if your employees don't know that you're doing that, it's really important to not, and it's not about tooting your own horn. It's really about making sure that they know that they're working for a company who's doing good. So that's super important. And then
don't let us lose you on this point. These are good points, Michelle.
So employee retention is really.
Hold on, we lost you for a second. I need that second point again, because that's going to be way too good to miss.
Okay.
Point number 2. Can you give that one to us again?
Stupid Wi-Fi. I mean, and people.
Okay, let's get the video to catch up here.
Employees want to work.
We'll get Michelle back in here momentarily. Let's see. Are we coming back? I think we're catching up. Oh, here it comes. It's resetting.
There we go.
Now we're going to be good. Yeah. Okay, so we lost you at point 1. Let's go with point 2.
Yeah, so point 2 is really about employees want to work for companies that do good, and if you tell your employees and you get them involved in it, so it's less about the president and CEO making those decisions. It's really about employee engagement and strategy, and retention will improve. And we've heard that before. Sometimes, employees typically leave because they don't like their boss or they get a better opportunity, right? But boy, you want people to stay.
Yeah, looks like we'll get you back here in a second.
With you for a long time. Show.
Yeah. I think we got the point, which is at the end of the day, employers want people to want to work there, and they want to be proud of where they work. And as we know, an extra $1,000 or $2,000, although it does go to help pay the bills after taxes, it's probably not a lot of money going to the bottom line. And to have an experience like having your organization set up a build at a Habitat site, and frankly, I'll mention the Daily Bread Food Bank is another place where I've taken my teams in the past, dealing with the fundamental needs that we have as human beings and being able to be there and help people in those challenging times. I think there's so much reward for the employees in feeling really proud of the organizations that they work for. Let's jump quickly. When we partnered with Habitat back in 2017 with Megan Reddick out of Habitat Canada, I think one of the really powerful things was understanding that at that point, Habitat was really about building a home and giving people shelter and making them secure in a community and in a home that they could feel that was their own and feel the comfort and safety that comes with that. And really the thought was about building the importance of community around that home. Tell me what your perspective is on the partnership that we have as a community partner, which is really about agreeing that we are complementary to the messages that each of us have and the work that we do. What's your perspective on the role of building a community for those people once they've moved into their Habitat home?
Yeah, and I'm a bit of a storyteller, so I think the best example is that we could have sometimes we have one Habitat family that moves into a community. It's an infill lot, which is pretty common for us to build infill lots. We're building a project right now. Our first bare land condo development is going to be 20 families in one. So when we have 20 families move in, we build a community. So density is important and all of those things, but building a community and improving the lives of a bunch of people all together who will support each other, they'll look after each other's kids, and then it becomes this thing. It increases the property values around where people live too. That this was an empty lot before, and now we have taxpayers and all those things. But I think that building community is building community with our volunteers and people that we don't have a relationship with. It's building the community with our neighbors of where we build and being respectful neighbors with the businesses that we, sometimes we build in an area where there's, 2 years ago, we built some net zero houses in Winnipeg where there was a tire shop, a car repair place right beside. Tony was his name. We said, hey, can we borrow, can we do this? And he became a part of our community by accident, right? And so, you just never know. But I mean, being kind to people, whatever it is that you do, I think kindness, empathy, compassion is so important, and just understanding that whatever it is that you decide to do, if it's volunteering with Habitat, becoming a donor, or whatever that looks like, maybe it's working with your local shelter or your kid's school or when my kids were growing up, I was the manager of every single team of whatever they played on, right? That was what I was able to do because I had to be there anyways. Yeah. But I think it's important that, building community can be when you're in the dog park walking and you see an older gentleman sitting by himself, to say, hey, why don't you come walk with me? Let's just have a visit. He maybe doesn't have anybody that knows him, so it happened to me the other day. Finn and my dog Finn visits every single person in the dog park. This gentleman was sitting by himself. I said, well, why don't you come walk with us, right? And it was the highlight of his day, so so whatever, community can be different things for different people. Habitat is just one vehicle that helps people do that.
Yeah, I think, and the whole GenWell project movement was built off the insights that today we know more about how important human connection is, whether it's through the community around the home, whether it's about the build, is that it's the single largest indicator of our happiness in our lives. It reduces anxiety and depression. increases empathy, compassion, resilience, to your point about kindness. And in a world where we're more segmented and fragmented than we've ever been before, strengthens our immune system. So having that community of people around us keeps us healthier, and then also increases our longevity. And even it's now about a month ago, new study out of Massachusetts General Hospital says that the single greatest thing that we can do to reduce the chances of getting depression are spending time with other people. So, we now know, in our perspective, our goal is to actually get people to use social connection as a preventative health measure that we can all take to keep ourselves and the community around us happier and healthier. So we don't have to go into a crisis before we can actually do the things that will keep us happy and healthy. And that, to me, it's everything that you do, Michelle. It's, not only the energy that you bring, and obviously, when you're giving the shout outs to your team, it's a great example of how you do it together. But I think everything about Habitat is about community. It's about working together, building together, being together. And I just want to congratulate you on pivoting and doing what you did, still getting your builds in this summer. And I hope that's the same for all the Habitat organizations across the country, because I think it's something that we need, the reminder, whether you get on a build, and I encourage everybody who hasn't to get out to one, because I really do believe, Habitat does more than building homes, but that's the core experience that I think that you wrap yourself around.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I had no idea when I took this position that this would fill my life with so much joy. All the jobs I had before prepared me to be great here is the best way I can describe it. And so, wake up, whatever it is that you do today, go do something nice for someone, do something nice for a stranger. I can tell you are going to feel amazing if you do that. So.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for everybody. So as we wrap up, Michelle, one of the things we always like to ask everybody before we end off our connected conversation is, how do you think you're going to celebrate the end of COVID when we get back to the new normal and we're able to go back out and do the things? And at this point, I think part of the uneasiness that many people feel is that we don't actually know when that will be. But when you get a chance to get back out and be the you that you used to be before COVID, what do you think the thing is that you're going to do to celebrate, the new normal?
So interesting. So this year I turned 50. And so I said to my friends and my children, I said, I don't want gifts. I don't want anything. I don't need anything. So I made a decision that I was going to do a global village, which is through a Habitat program. It's where we build in a developing country. And so my trip was supposed to be in March, and I was supposed to go to Cambodia. And so I had to raise money to go, which is interesting because, I can go raise money with in the community and talk to businesses and ask for $1 million, but asking your friends and family to help you go on this trip was actually harder than I thought it would be. But they were all very generous and was done right away. But I will go, and anybody that knows me knows that I am not handy. I do not like physical labor, but being outside of my comfort zone was about what my 50th year was going to be. And I was going to write a blog, and it was called Dear 50 Years. And so it'll be the COVID detour 50-year birthday year, and we'll just adjust, right? So my goal is to go to Cambodia and build with Habitat there for, I think it's a 10-day trip, and
Wow.
And just experience that community, and because you can build a house in Cambodia for $5,000 and help a whole bunch of family, and it's a very different experience. And so Habitat Canada has been generous to let us keep the money there. They got it in trust, and so when the borders open up and it's safe for us to go, that will be my first trip that I book. And because I didn't want to go sit on a resort and drink Mai Tais and have people wait on me. I wanted to serve people, and I feel like that was important to me. So that will be the first thing that I do, is go to Cambodia.
Well, happy birthday. Has the date already come and gone yet, or you did turn?
Oh yeah, March. Long time ago.
Okay. So happy birthday. Happy belated
51.
birthday. But more importantly, kudos to you again. I think we need more people walking the planet who feel that necessity to serve others. And I think as we move forward with the challenges that we're going to face as a society, not only the health challenges, but the financial challenges, the employment challenges, and even just the fact that we're sitting with, idle time and idle hands will challenge people to figure out how they can find their meaning and their purpose. And I think, again, a conversation like this, if some people hear what you've been saying throughout the course of this interview and recognize the value of having that purpose and that meaning of picking up a hammer, being on a site, I think we really can help make the world a happier and healthier place. So
I couldn't agree more.
Before we end off, I just want to let people know where they can find out more. You want to get on a build, you want to make a donation, you want to come and make the world a better place for other people and for yourself. Michelle, tell us where we can find out more information.
Yeah, so the Manitoba website is habitat.mb.ca. So depending on where that's for us in Winnipeg, and you can designate it to a particular community that's important to you. If you're outside of Manitoba and you really want to support where you live, go to habitat.ca. That's the Habitat Canada website. You can find an affiliate there. We are in every province and every territory in Canada. So wherever you live, there is a habitat close to you. The other thing you can do is if you're clean, lots of people are renovating right now because nobody's going on vacation. So if you're renovating, you're cleaning out the garage, like whatever it is, go donate that stuff to the Restore, because the profits from the Restore help us build homes. And so it's a social enterprise. It's the most successful social enterprise in the world ever created. There's over 1,000 in the world now.
Wow.
In Canada last year, it did $77 million. So it is extremely, but donations have dried up. Like it's not happening right now. So they can't take everything, but certainly check and see if you can donate something, and you get a tax receipt, which is also for the stuff you were going to throw away. So it keeps it out of the landfill. All of those things are important too. So whatever that looks like, but habitat.mb.ca is our website, and then habitat.ca is Habitat Canada, and you can find an affiliate close to you.
That's amazing. I think everybody should be heading over, checking it out, find out when the next build is in your area. And I see that the incredible Megan Reddick has been part of the conversation today. And we all love her for all the energy and the good that she does in the world that she brings. And Shelley Baltman highlighting that she loves what both the GenWell Project and Habitat are all about. So, again, Michelle, thank you so much for your time today. I think more importantly, thank you for doing what you do. And what comes out of this conversation very clearly is this isn't a job for you. This is actually about making a difference in the world and understanding what a build means and the difference shelter can make in somebody's life. So I love it, because that really is what I think we need more of around here. So kudos to you, and thanks again for making the time today.
Okay, well, we'll have to do one last thing. This is tradition and Habitat, okay? And then we'll end the conversation. So when we put up a wall at a Habitat build site, we have to go Habitat, oh yay. So let's just count down, and you and I will do that together.
You got it, girl.
We're going to put up some walls to help people and lift some people up. So we'll go 3, 2, 1, Habitat. Ready? Habitat, oh yay.
Oh yay. Let's do it. I love that.
Okay, bye everybody.
I need to get a sign off like that as well, but that was a great one. I love it.
Okay.
Thanks, Michelle.
Be well.
You too, my friend. Speak with you soon.